Welcome one, welcome all to Crypto and Chill. Tonight, myself and Jeff are going to be going through the cornucopia of influencers out there. Nobody like specifically. I mean, we'll be definitely be showing some clips from different content creators, but I want to start pointing out the difference between being wrong, because even on this channel, yeah, I have been wrong about multiple projects. I've been right about a couple of projects, and even the ones I was wrong on, we still made the community. Those of us that got involved in DeFi and used those tokens to earn yield and stuff like that. We still did well, but we've been wrong. I was very bullish on Casper. That thing didn't do shit. All I did was lose money on that thing. There's a difference though between being wrong and making more out of news than what it actually is. And then there is that fine line that you potentially cross. And it's something that we'll never do here, but getting paid to speak a certain way about a project and not making that public, basically, pretending to be impartial, but you indeed are not. So, because you're incentivized in some way. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, because I think it's important right now, especially where we're at in the cycle, in the bear market. There's a lot of people that are desperate right now. I'll just say it. It's not a whole lot of interest in crypto. Everybody's crypto is down. So a lot of people have lost a lot of money, and that's what happens when you're investing in speculative assets. So anyway, that's what we're going to dive into tonight. So Jeff, where should we start? I got a video I want to start with, but are you wanting to start with the bullish? Because this is what we're going to do. I'm going to be more of the pessimist. Surprise, surprise. I'm going to point out, kind of the negative aspects of, some of the, influencers out there and some of the things that they do. And Jeff is going to take more of the positive. He's going to, have some examples, hopefully, where he's going to point out, good, honest channels that try to have integrity, and they genuinely just want to educate people and help people. So, I mean, where are you wanting to start? We'll start with the video, and then are you wanting to go with the bullish side first or the bearish?
Yeah, we can start with this one from a Crypto Capital Venture. I've never really watched him, but oh yeah, I need to share my screen.
Well, let's start with this video real quick, because this gentleman here, his name's Archie. So Crypto Archie YT, and shout out to this gentleman. It looks like he's 22 years old. I'll give credit to Crux of Crypto. He commented on it, and that's how I found it. So I like to give credit where credit is due. But this young man, it looks like in his teens, he made a bunch of money in crypto and started his own little channel. I shouldn't say little; I think it's bigger than ours. But he's calling people out. So let's watch a little bit of this. And Jeff, if you want me to pause it because you want to make a comment or something, let me know.
Back to another live stream. We've got a good stream for you today. We're going to discuss what's going on with Bitcoin dominance. We're going to discuss the altcoin market, because there's some pretty big things flashing for altcoins. And we're going to be going over some drama that has been happening in the crypto space, some things that I feel compelled to discuss, because a lot of unfortunate people are losing money. And look, in crypto, you're going to lose money here and there, right? I lose money here and there. Even sometimes some of my followers will lose money here and there on certain calls. The difference is when there's deception going on. The difference is when there is black market deals, money being pocketed by people without mentioning it. And there's a whole lot of stuff that I'm going to uncover.
So that is the key. That's the key difference. But go ahead, Jeff.
and channels only talking about one project. If you were talking about just a single project the whole time, I mean, that's a big red flag, you know? It's like, okay, how much news every single day can you shill about one single project? And if you start attacking other people for saying, oh, for them talking bad about that project, it's like, are you guys getting paid behind the scenes? Yeah.
You mean
Yeah,
like
every
this or this or this
every single
or
day.
this? It's
Because,
like,
dude, I was invested when I was when Safe Moon came around. There was one guy, Safe Moon Joe. He was
yeah,
like hard on YouTube almost every day, just talking about Safe Moon, bullish, bullish, bullish. And then when Safe Moon just went ass up, he rebranded his channel and he was like, you know what? I was wrong. At least he admitted it. But he was like, you know what? I was wrong. I thought it was all bullish and covering the team. I thought they were doing a good job. And he's like, nope, that's not the case anymore. but
but at least he had the integrity to admit it. You
yeah,
know, and you know, if as long as he wasn't getting paid, you know, to talk about Safe Moon, you know, that's a whole different story. But you know, the reason that I you know, showed all those is I just typed in XRP in YouTube, and it's just like every single one of these, you know, $12,050, you know, urgent $12,050. But you know, the reason is they know people are going to watch. I mean, like this video 8 hours ago already has almost 20,000 views. You know, this one 4 hours ago, 7.7 or 7,700 views. You know, this one 7 hours ago, 7.2K. You know, this one 3K 3 hours ago. You know, this one 4K 5 hours ago. You know, and these aren't big channels.
Wow.
You know, Good Evening Crypto is only like 50,000 followers. You know, but because of, you know, these, you know, kind of, you know, titles that they use, and, you know, because of a lot of the verbiage and excitement that they, you know, exude when they talk about these projects, you know, it draws people in. And you have a lot of people out there that are very bullish on XRP. And if you, you know, feed, you know, that ego, or you feed that endorphin rush that they want to hear, and tell them only good things about their investment, you're going to get eyeballs, you're going to get views. And that's how you make money, you know, on YouTube, is, you know, getting eyeballs. So I get why people do it, but we need to understand there is a difference between just being bullish on a project, hyping up a project, you know, because you're invested in it, but you're not receiving, you know, any sort of compensation necessarily from like any, you know, any other party. You just bought the token and you're bullish on it and you're talking about it. We all kind of do that. You know, I mean, if I'm talking, you know, if I'm really bullish about something, of course I'm going to buy it. You know, it's like, why would I be in crypto, you know, learning about crypto? And if there's a real something I think is a really solid project, why wouldn't I invest in it? Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But you know, we're going to go through, and actually, let's go back to here, and let's fast forward a little bit.
Voiceless. I'm not. I'm going to speak up about it. And I don't normally, you know, put my nose in other people's business. But these are guys I've actually shamefully worked with in the past, when they, in my opinion, used to be decent guys, before the greed got to them. You know, and some of the childish things they say to me on X and all of this, you can tell these guys do not care what they.
Well, and I want to point out that the project that shall not be named, you know, the way that community came after us, that's why it was such a red flag for me. Because like this young gentleman's talking about, you know, usually whenever you're onto something is when it elicits an emotional response. If you've ever, you know, confronted a significant other about infidelity, almost instantly, if they're guilty, almost instantly, they're going to get mad. They're going to get offended. How dare you? and maybe even start accusing you. That is the kind of thing that this young man is talking about. Is, I guess, he had some people come after him on X, and attacking him, and that's the same thing that that community did to us. So that's why I got so many red flags when that happened, and why I started digging into that project so much, is because that's usually a red flag. I mean, do you have any experience with that, Jeff?
No, I mean, just from what I've seen, I mean, yeah, like you said, not directly with like, well, yeah, maybe directly with like family and friends, and seeing responses from people that I didn't know, just body language, behaviors, and studying people. You can kind of tell when people are doing something they shouldn't do, and then they get called out, and then they try and defend themselves, and it's like, okay, I'm not stupid, something doesn't smell right.
I was born at night, but not last night. That's one of my favorite sayings. I might not be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I know bullshit when I smell it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what you got to be aware of. Like, if you start getting attacked and stuff, and you weren't even pointing out anything, like,
no,
you weren't attacking them at all. You're just pointing out certain things, and
we just did a deep dive, and we just said that that project's token didn't have solid value capture, and they came after us. I was a bag holder of it, and I sold it, and said that on the show. Anything that I hold, if I'm talking bullish about it, I always, in the Discord, I always let the community know, hey guys, girls, I'm selling my bag. I'm not bullish on it anymore. We did a deep dive. I've sold a lot of my positions based off the deep dives we've done. I sold my bag of Ondo. I just kept a moon bag. I sold my bag of Casper. I kept a moon bag, $100, $200. Just in case. You never know. It might get some crazy fucking speculative pump, and I can sell it and make some of my money back. Because Casper, I lost like 10 grand, dude, on Casper. Oh. Yeah, no, it was ugly. It was ugly. That was a lesson. That was an expensive lesson. That was my most expensive lesson I learned. But
Ada was mine. It was about the same.
there's a lot of people right now, and not saying that Charles did anything necessarily malicious, but he obviously was talking very bullish about his project for a long time, giving people hope, and that's not malicious. I mean, he's just bullish on the project, but there was a lot of stuff that never materialized. It's like, that's kind of why I went after the one CEO of that other project, and kind of called him out on, and he ended up blocking us. I'll just say it. That Thai guy from Kita. I reached out to him a couple of times. Even back when we were doing bullish takes, when we were doing deep dives on it using our old way of thinking. We were very bullish on it because the TPS and some of the use cases it was going after, and we were bullish on it. But when we started looking at projects based off the token's value capture, we had asked him to come on the show multiple times, and then when we did this last deep dive, we even reached out. It was going to say, hey, are you willing to come on the show? And if we get something wrong in our deep dive, correct us, because we've had CEOs and team members do that in our chat before. We'll be doing deep dives. That's how we got. I want to say Zenith was I tagged on X that we were going to be doing a deep dive on Zenith or something. There was a couple of projects out there, and OPNet, that was another one where they just popped into our chat, and while we were going through the deep dive, they're like, okay, nope, that's wrong. And we're like, oh, awesome. Thank you. And we corrected ourselves live, on air. And that's what we would love to do on our deep dives, is have, one of the team members there to go on the record and say, yes, this is how it is. But one of my issues was that a lot of their documentation for Kita doesn't specify a lot of things that the community and them claim, that are part of the tokenomics, and part of, kind of the way the project works. Because you have a lot of people in the community out there saying things, and I think it's out of ignorance. It's not, it's not, malicious at all. But saying things like the nodes are, what is it they call them?
Oh, the validators?
The validators, the nodes, whatever, that they have to stake KTA or lock KTA to utilize the network. And other than gas, they really don't. It's and TIE, we basically stated that it was a gas token and a governance token. And the manifesto from KETA specifically states that at its core, that the KTA token is a governance token. That is from their official documentation, and more than happy to show it if anyone's interested. But you can Google it yourself. Just KETA manifesto, do a Control F to do a search, and then type in governance token, and it will give you all the instances in that document that say governance token. You know what? I'll show you. It'll teach our community how to do that.
Was it a sequencer?
All right, so let's go. Let's Google KETA manifesto.
Ketard manifesto.
Ketard manifesto. And I'm not, trying to attack the project anymore or anything like that. Yeah. We're never trying to attack anybody here. We're just trying to state the facts. So don't take this as we're picking on you. All right, it's just an example of late. All right, here we go. KETA manifesto. All right, so while you're on the page, you do a Control F, and you can't see it, but a little box popped up here. And so I'm going to put governance token. All right. It's not wanting to do it. So
Is there manifesto or the white paper?
It's I don't think this is the right document. And for some reason, when I'm screen sharing, it's not letting me. It's not letting me do the search.
Let me see if I can.
See if you can find it. But the bottom line.
Yeah, under we built the infrastructure. Yeah, I got it.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, right here. Ooh.
Yeah, I'm a little bit buzzed, so I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, KT is the governance asset at its core.
Yeah. And that's from the official documentation. And then the community kept on, tagging me in this audio clip of Ty, the CEO, being on a Spaces, and he said exactly what it is that I've been stating. But they were using it to say, see, you're wrong. And he said in the audio clip that it is a gas token and it is a governance token, and that they are working on potentially adding it to where it will have some utility, for the anchors. It's a part of their technology. So, but that's not the case right now. So this is kind of what we're getting at. And what we want to highlight during this episode is that you can't just take things at face value. You guys need to see what happened to the Bonk DAO governance exploit. What happened there?
Oh shit! Damn, there was another exploit on some project for millions just yesterday, I think.
It was today. It was a project I've never heard of, though.
Summer something.
All right. Well, while you look for that, let's play a little bit more of this video.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Because he came up with some
they don't
fire
know what people
here.
think. Immature comments that they give, you know? Name calling, all of that stuff, right? Anyway, obviously they will bite back. I expect that. You know, you can't go and do what I'm doing without expecting some form of an attack back. I expect that. I expect personal attacks about anything. I don't care. Nothing affects me. They can make fun of my age. They can say I'm a child. You know? They can say anything. It doesn't bother me. But I know the truth. And you guys know the truth. An exchange, which I use, Blowfin, which is a very credible exchange. And I sometimes promote Tangent, which is the hardware wallet which I use. I've never taken money from a single crypto project. Now, I'm going to say this.
We need to reach out to
if
this
a project
kid.
like, say...
We need to reach out to this kid, and I call him a kid. He's a 22-year-old man, but I'm 52, so...
Youngin. He's a youngin. Young
yeah, he's a kid, you know, young blood. I need to reach out to this young blood and see if he wants to come on the show. You know, help give him some exposure, and just is honestly, that's what we're trying to do here. Is we really, and it's unfortunate that some of the recent events kind of kibosh some of the partnerships that we had just started. And hopefully at some point they'll decide to come back. But we really want to build like a consortium here. We want to build a community of good, solid content creators that are going to tell it how it is. They're not going to hype things. They're not going to FUD things. They're just going to state the facts as they are. Try to educate people in crypto about these projects, good and bad, everything that we do. For every good thing that I say about Canton or any other project, I make it a point to always point out something to the opposite. Like with Canton, tons of bullish stuff going on, but we always point out the token is still inflationary. There is more being minted than is being burned. As the network usage increases and the fees that are being collected increases, more is burned. So, but we always point that out. And that is what is important as a content creator, is you need to paint the whole picture, not just the picture that you want to paint. I would love to just get paid to talk about projects that we're bullish on here and pump my own bags. I would love that. But my integrity will not allow that, unfortunately. Nope. And so that's why we're so real here. We speak our mind. And that's why this flows so easy. I'm a totally different person off camera. I'm not this talkative off camera. You can ask Jeff and David. I'm not this talkative. This is because I'm so passionate about this. I want to educate people because the way that I'm compensated for this is I enjoy the messages I get from our community, thanking us for being real, for being genuine, for calling it like it is, for being transparent about, the stuff, the bags that we hold, and when we sell, when we learn something new, we let our community know. We try to let everyone know. If you subscribe to our channel, like our channel, you're gonna get the real truth here, the raw, real truth.
Real deal, Holyfield.
Yeah. So did I miss the bit, boy? Oh yeah, no. We can 100%. We can 100% freaking show that. I mean, it's been made public. Where back when it was BitBoy Crypto, that he had a one sheet that was basically, if you want us to mention your crypto project on the show, it's $10,000. It's like they had it to where they were paid to talk about a project. There's the thing is, the difference was he was not transparent about it. There are shows out there like freaking Mario Nufal, but they are transparent about it. Not the main show, but the one that like me and David have gone
Round
on.
table talk.
Yeah, that round table. They are totally transparent about it. It was an hour and like 30 to 45 minutes was just talking about crypto, about a certain topic. And then the last part was basically like a paid infomercial. And they would just interview them about their project and, ask them like what it is, the use case and what it is they're trying to accomplish. And, it was very genuine. There was nothing malicious about it. That's fine, as long as you're transparent about that. The line is when you pretend like you're unbiased and you are getting paid to talk a certain way. And I'll be honest, I don't know any that are active right now that I can prove that they're doing that, but I definitely suspect some. And I'm not going to name any because I have absolutely no proof. But Jeff.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta, well, the BitBoy thing, my brother, I turned him on to him early on in our crypto journey. And even my brother was like, man, something doesn't seem right with this guy. Something seems a little off. And he didn't really watch him. And he even called it, years before it happened. And then the news came out. I was like, man, man, you're on it.
No,
so if you get that weird vibe, man, trust your intuition.
I'm really good judge of character. It's, I can sniff people out pretty well. And he was entertaining, but I wouldn't have trusted that guy as far as I could throw him. There's no fucking way I would have trusted that dude. Like pretty much everything that he talked about, I avoided. And there's some others out there that are like that too. But so let's play a little bit more of this.
Let's just look at these examples, okay? I've got the screenshots. And these are legit, by the way. These are legitimate screenshots. Sometimes people do fake things on YouTube. People have faked things with me in before. It's very common that people do actually go ahead and fake stuff. But this isn't fake. I know for a fact this is real. And I have a confirmation of it happening by one of these YouTubers themselves. Okay. I have direct evidence. So, and look, I used to be somewhat friendly with these guys before the greed got to them is the key thing. Okay. So essentially Archetype is asking for, let's see, how much did you want? Just so you guys know what's going on, that's all. Because these guys won't tell you, right? Someone needs to speak up and tell you. If you want me to make more alerts, you can send me $20,000 and I'll make another alert. So he wants 20 grand for a second buy alert. So these buy alerts you're getting from other YouTubers, they are not genuine buy alerts. It's not, okay, let me just get my phone. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to buy this coin. Okay. Send the buy alert. That's what I do. If I buy a coin, get on my, my exchange.
So basically what he's talking about right here is whoever this is. I don't know who this is David Wolfpack or whatever. Basically what it looks like is he's sending a message that is saying, send me $20,000 and I'll tell my community that there's a buy alert on your token. That I'm getting some sort of signal that you should buy, that they should buy, and that's what it appears is going on here. And excuse me, that is malicious.
Yeah, because how do you know? How can you trust that person? One, and then how do you know exactly when they're buying and when they're sending the alert. And also, you could be his exit liquidity. It's like, okay, let me go ahead and send this guy this buy order, and then I'm gonna fucking sell right when he buys. He's gonna be like, oh yeah, I bought, and then hey, there you go, just got dumped on.
What they're talking about is putting out to their community that there's these people that have people buy in to these little communities to where they get the insider scoop, and they're told when to buy and sell and stuff like that. And so basically, I mean, that's what it appears here. Again, I'm just going off of what this young man is saying. But it looks like that they are saying and if this is a real tweet, or not tweet, but a message, direct message, they're saying send us $20,000 and we'll basically tell our community and go on our channel and say that there's a buy signal flashing on your token. So that's shady as shit. So
whatever
here
it is, press buy, put in the amount. Then I go to my Discord and I let people know, right, I've just bought this coin. That's transparency. These guys get paid to do the buy alert. Not just paid to do the video, not just paid to do a live stream. They get paid to do the buy alert. That's the shadiest thing out of all of it. Paid, sponsored buy alerts. This needs to stop. Someone needs to speak out. Someone needs to talk about this. And I encourage, if you're a different YouTuber and you're watching this and you have a platform, I encourage that you speak out about it as well. Because we can't let this crypto space turn into a cesspit of scammers and bad actors.
Too late.
And greedy influencers who are already making good money from their groups, good money from referral links. Actually, no, they're not. They all left. Everyone left these groups, actually, because they got rugged so many times. So that's why they're turning to this, because they just kept losing money. Their memberships went like this, and they just fell off a cliff because everyone left. That's why they turned to this, perhaps.
Well, and that's why, like, on this channel, is I do not pretend to be an expert. If anybody that's been here more than 5 minutes knows, I don't do price predictions. I don't freaking, I don't shill anything. I'm both critical and, positive and negative about any project that if you ask me about any project, I'm going to tell you the positive aspects and the negative aspects, because I want you to be fully knowledgeable. And whatever you choose, however you choose to invest, is up to you. We don't pretend like we're experts here. We don't try to say that, I'm making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, or, I made $1 million this year, or something like that. That's not what we're about. We're here to educate. We are not here to influence. If you watch our show and you find value, welcome. Glad to have you. If you watch and you think that we're full of shit, and you don't want to watch, or you watch and you get some education or some information that allows you to be successful in a trade or in DeFi, or investing in a certain project, awesome. That's all we care about. The reason that we are talk about this so much is because it's so important. If you're going to use an outlet to educate yourself on how you're going to choose to invest your money, because I'll never tell you how to invest, but if you're going to invest, I want to make sure it's based off the best information possible. And that is what we're trying to do here. And that's why on the Node.pro, that's why, David has been gracious enough to give away DeFi University. It is a full, from beginner to advanced education system to teach you about crypto and DeFi. I would have killed for that when I first started.
And money basics.
Yeah.
The fundamentals of money,
Yep. And then, building on Bitcoin. Also free. Plus, we have our deep dive library. So actually, you know what? I'm just going to show it real quick. This is, I don't know any shillers or scammers that do this. So on the Node.pro,
Free.
Yeah, it's like we're the worst scammers ever. If if we're giving stuff away, I mean, if we were scamming, we would be charging for everything. Um, Even the stuff we charge for, we give like free trials, like a week or two free trials, so that you can try it out, and see if it's valuable to you. But this, are they 100? Are all of them 100% accurate? Absolutely not. We say that right up front. These aren't meant to fully educate you about these projects. The majority, like 95% or more of the information is correct, but we're human, and yes, we use AI to generate the videos and, stuff like that. So like if you click into them, like there's these little 8-minute videos that give you, the down and dirty about, what is BNB, the token, and, what is its use case, who is it that's using it, just the down and dirty. And then you can read about it. It has all kinds of, different data and, things like that. If you like to read instead of just listen, you can, the slide deck, it's basically a PowerPoint presentation. So it's a summary of the source document. And then you got the infographic, which is just the one sheet that gives you the really down and dirty. This is the elevator pitch for this project. And then at the very bottom, you have the source document. So this is what we use to, basically do the research for the rest of it. And at the bottom of every single one of them, we cite our sources. So this isn't our personal opinion. This isn't, this is what we think of the project. This is this information that we just gave you. This is where we got it. If you've ever been in college, this is a requirement on any college paper. Yep. You have to cite your sources. It's there isn't anybody that I know of out there that does this. They'll show like a news article or something like that, and that is citing a source, but they aren't going through, and there's a couple that I can think of. That's Cyper X or something like that. He's a fellow veteran, really good dude. I've tried to get him to come on the show, but just can't get him to come on the show. I think he's just being smart. He doesn't want to align himself with anybody. He's doing really well, and he just kind of wants to do his own thing, and I can respect that. But I really want to find people that have this level of integrity, that they're willing to be fully transparent about, any products that they offer, any services that they offer, any information they put out. Just pull back the curtain. There is no wizard here. The emperor has no clothes.
No, that's a good point. And I was going to say, when he was talking about all the people leaving those memberships, yeah, and Scoop-Boy had a good point. It acts as the front door to the project and overview.
It's better than the back door to my project.
Yeah, no.
I don't want anything in my back door when it comes to a project.
Deny.
Yeah, no.
You get all this, you build up a community, you build up this hype, and then you dump on them and they leave. And then how are you going to rebuild that once your name is tarnished for lying? That's why we're so transparent with everything. We don't want to, we have more integrity than to risk tarnishing our name, to just risk losing, our credibility. It's like, we don't want to fucking show your face after that. Dude,
I learned a long time ago, in the military, integrity is currency. And if, once you compromise your integrity, there is almost no way to get it back.
In that case, it's life or death, and that you don't play with.
Well, but I mean, you go to any serious military school, if in a infantry school, especially if you go into like special operations and you're going through like SFAS, or you're going through the Q course, or anything like that. If being an integrity violator is an instant freaking ejection from the course. Like it is not. There's a zero tolerance policy, because if they can't take your word, like you said, in that case, it's life or death. But, in crypto and in life, honestly, it's kind of the same. It might not be life or death, but your integrity, your honor. If once you compromise that, it's a hard, rough road to try to come back from, and some people never do.
Yep.
So, that's
yeah. I had a job that it was 2013, and I failed a drug test. And when I found out, I went straight to the regional director. He was just under it was a private company, and small private company, and he was, I had to talk to him.
You're like, dude, that cigarette you gave me had weed in it. You
yeah, I could have made all these excuses and tried to lie and all that shit.
You owned it.
I owned it and talked to him, and he was like, well, let me talk to the owner. And then I had to talk to the owner and go through all that. So, and he said, nobody has ever, we've always fired everybody that's happened to, but since you came to us and had integrity, and, they put me on a probation period and had to do random drug screens. So, but I got to keep my job. And it was also, it helps to be a good worker. That's not everyone's irreplaceable, but you better make sure you make it damn hard for them to replace you.
Valuable. You need to make it hurt. If they lose you. No, but integrity. And what up, Drew? Friggin', hey, if you want to come on, this is a great topic for you, Drew, because you're one of the few in this industry that I've met that has integrity. So, if you want to pop on, say so in the chat. I'll send you the link. But yeah, the integrity and the honor and the stuff that I learned during my military service, I'm not going to compromise it. We lose money doing this channel. Me, Jeff, and David. We do this. We have multiple shows, live shows a day. The website. We pay for StreamYard and Vizard to do shorts and all kinds of different stuff. We are net negative. We lose money doing this. Could we, accept one of the many emails that I get on a daily basis and, get paid to represent an exchange or, something, or to talk about a project? Yeah, we could. And, and we could make money doing that, but we choose not to. Me, David, and Jeff have talked about it, because as soon as we take any kind of compensation to talk about a project, even if we're transparent about it, to us, to each their own, but to us, people will, in the back of your mind, you're going to wonder if the questions they're asking during an interview, the things that they're saying about a project, is that how they actually feel, or are they painting a positive picture because they're being paid?
Mm-hmm.
It's just how it is, and it's okay. Like I said, we all have our own way of putting out information, but here at the Node, we want you to support us. If you find anything that we do here valuable, any of the services that we offer, the newsletter, the Intel library, the DeFi University, the coaching, any of that. If you choose to support the channel in that way, awesome. But what we feel is the honorable way to support our channel. Is you, the community, decide the value. So anyway. Oh, yeah. We got Drew's listening in the earbuds and practicing baseball with the boy. All right, you know what? That's more important. That's integrity. That's honor. Being a good father. I like it. All right, so let's listen to a little bit more of this.
But you can see here, right? The last one I backed went from 100K to 22 million by myself, essentially. So he's just admitting here to market manipulation, essentially, right?
Does he mean bring a lot of pull for a project? Does that mean
to market?
He brings his community?
Is
that what he means by his pull?
Yeah, he's saying for me to be invested in it, I would need some supply, especially with low liquidity like this, higher risk, because basically if there's low liquidity, like say they gave him like a shit ton of tokens. If there's no liquidity, I mean, anybody that's been in crypto a while, I've jokingly posted a screenshot of my wallet where I had like, I think it was like $8 billion or something in it, because some shit token, somebody like dropped some shit token into my my wallet, and but you can't cash it out. There's no liquidity. There needs to be liquidity so that you can pull liquidity out. Funny. So basically, what he's saying in this text is that with low liquidity, because I do bring a lot of pull for a project. So what he's talking about pull is, yeah, he has a lot of viewers, he has a lot of followers, subscribers that he can get to basically add liquidity. So the last one I backed went from 100K to 22 million by myself, essentially. So basically, he's trying to sell, his product. It's like, if you give me the money that I want, and it sounds like he's talking about that he wants cash. He wants that $20,000, and then it sounds like he wants some of the token too. So $20,000 to make sure that he makes some money, and then however many tokens that he can essentially dump on his community is what we're reading in these texts. Like, again, if they're genuine.
Let's just see. They will not tell you, and you just have to take my word that I don't do this. Some of you might not believe me. I don't. Guy who, first of all, I haven't spoken to in about a year, but we used to be on good terms. And it's pretty frustrating for me to see this from him, because he was always a guy who used to speak out about this. He would talk out about other YouTubers. Crypto Gains was one. He would always talk about crypto gains, always attack crypto gains. And now he's essentially
doing the same thing.
The same thing.
Yeah. And that is the slippery slope. Is you need to be really careful about who you are subscribed to and who you're listening to, and ensuring, again, us included, you shouldn't just watch this channel and purely invest off of, especially what I say. Like, do not, like, when me and David debate, like, David's usually, not always, but usually right. Like that whole thing that we were talking about today with DCAing when the price is going down.
Oh, yeah, and you're more degen.
Yeah, the smart investor would listen to David. If you're a degen like me, and I've lost money. I did it with Casper. I DCA'd on the way down, on a what ended up being, up until now, a losing project. But, people that were buying Bitcoin, that just consistently buy Bitcoin, no matter what it does, in the past, it's always paid off for them. If it's on the way down, if it's on the way up, but there was no way of knowing that. I tell the story all the time where my buddy, we were at a barbecue. It was after my last deployment, to the Middle East. We were having a barbecue, and my buddy, Mike, that was on the show on Sovereign Soil, talking about the red dot trading, like the pistol red dot trading. He was the one. And we were, me, him, his wife, and we were all sitting at the table. And he's like, there's this thing called Bitcoin, and I'm thinking about putting like $100 in, and he's like, you should do it too, and we'll see what happens. This is 2011, mind you. And I was like, what the hell is Bitcoin? And he explained it to me. He's like, well, it's this, this electronic money that's, online. And I'm like, what? Like, that sounds like the most idiotic shit I've ever heard. It's like, I'm going to put real money into, I'm like, okay, so who accepts it? Is it used as a medium of exchange? Or he's like, no. It's like an electronic money. It's so you can be like self-sovereign. I'm like, well, if nobody takes it, if nobody accepts it for payment for anything, then it's worthless. It's basically like like the Venezuelan peso when the government collapsed. People were just, it was thrown all around. Banks, people had broken into banks and they just threw it in the streets. It was worthless. And so if nobody accepts
wheelbarrows,
exactly, it's so anyway. My point is that it's important to understand where people are coming from when they're talking about these projects and their motivation behind their words. And I highly suggest that you don't just listen to words that make you feel good. Honestly, you should be looking for words that hurt your feel bads, because that means they're potentially being honest. Um, if you only seek out that confirmation bias, if you only seek out those voices that feed those endorphins, you're going to run into the people that I was showing before. These people that are going for views, because they know if they say nothing but good things about certain projects, that they're going to get a bunch of views. And they may or may not believe what they're saying. I mean, there's too many of these to go through, and maybe we'll start going through some of these. But I know for a fact, I used to listen to this one when I was an XRP holder, Crypto Sensei. Same with Good Evening Crypto. Used to be Good Morning Crypto. Was a huge. I was always in their chat. They probably don't remember me, but I've always been veteran crypto. I've never tried to hide, and I used to be in their chat, and I was a part, like a serious part of their community. Like I want to say I was a mod at one point, if I remember right. But as the project evolved and I learned more, and their narrative just kept shifting, no matter what happened with the project, it's supposedly the token was going to pump when when the lawsuit was done. They won the lawsuit and it didn't pump. RLUSD came out, which affected the use case of XRP. Because they were saying that XRP was going to be used as the only token that's on the XRPL. So it was going to move all the value. It was going to pay the gas. It was going to move all the value, all of that. And they just shifted their narrative, when RLUSD, launched, and just started talking bullish about other aspects. And it's like, but they never acknowledge the negative aspects because they know that they would lose viewers. Be careful, just blindly listening to anybody. Again, us included. Fact check. Do the research. Yes, it's great to be able to listen to content creators and get information. But you always need to be critical of that information. So Jeff.
Well, yeah. So go back to that kid's video again. And
yeah,
I was looking up that Crypto Galaxy, right,
okay,
on Twitter. And it looks like he hasn't posted anything since August 2024. So he's talking about Caspa. Not Casper, but Caspa. And
Caspa,
how bullish he was on it. Yeah, but look, CAS is the rare coin which keeps pumping forever. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, ready for another leg up. And he keeps, pumping it. And I think the last thing he posted was a CAS pump incoming on the 19th of August, right? I got the chart right here. As you can see, prior to August 2024, it was going up, right? And then this is when he had that post, right? Do you want to see what happened after this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but Caspa, I mean, I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know a ton about it. I own 0 Caspa.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, David has spoke very positively about it. A lot of people in our community have spoke positively about it. A lot of tokens look like this.
Could be legitimate.
A lot of projects look like this right now. There's a lot of projects that are below their all-time lows. There's some altcoins that are below their all-time lows. It's rough out there right now.
But, just and this, I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm just, I want to point out, if you just blindly listen to somebody on a specific token, or whether it's XRP or, Caspa or even Canton, if you just listen to one person, and if they're so bullish on it, you got to be smart. Never go all in, and be more strategic. And because in case something like this happens, you have some dry powder that you can, okay, it's still a good project. It's just the market's shit and everything's down, everything's correlating together. But I'm not all in right here when somebody says, oh, buy 15,000 Caspa, and then you have nothing to.
I don't listen to anybody that tries to tell, like tries not give financial advice, but if they're telling you that something is a great buy right now, or I'm very, very careful about who I'll listen to. If it's somebody that isn't equally seeking out the negative aspects of a project, they're not giving equal amount of effort to find the negative aspects and the positive aspects. If all they paint is a rosy picture, I will not listen to them. This right here, no hype. At the same time, I wouldn't watch too many channels. You will get talked out of your conviction. You should be trying to get talked out of your conviction. It's going to keep you in check. I do it all the time. The couple of channels I listen to is I want to hear
that's a good
both
point.
the positive and negative aspects. And if that talks me out of my position, so be it. As long as I did my due diligence, as long as I did my own research and verified that the things that were said that's leading me to exit that position are legitimate. Am I going to screw up sometimes? Absolutely. There's projects that I've sold, like, what was it? Which one was it? I sold like right before everything pumped. I think it was H-Bar. I think. There was a project that I sold all my tokens like right before it pumped and missed out like on a 7x or 8x. And but it happens. You're not gonna get it right every time. But I've avoided a lot of pitfalls. Like, for somebody that's been in crypto for 5-6 years, I haven't gotten burned super bad, by anything major. Casper was my biggest burn, and that was honestly just because my ignorance of crypto. I was looking at the wrong things. When it comes to being bullish about a project, I was looking at use cases and utility, and I wasn't looking at value capture. Because if you look, me and David were pointing this out today. If you look, almost every project that meets our trifecta is outperforming other alts and Bitcoin right now. So Hype, Tron, BNB, Canton, all the projects that we talk about here that we're bullish on, all of them are outperforming the overall market. Coincidence? You decide. And again, do your own research.
I missed the you guys did Binance today, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I was in our team meeting this morning during that, so I'll have to watch it. Was it helpful? Was it good?
BNB,
gonna run everybody?
We didn't give it a grade. Me and David need to give it a grade. Avalanche, I think, is probably like a C or a D. But Binance, I think, might be a B, possibly. I would say probably a B.
Okay. Yeah, and I like what you said the other day about the, giving it an F. It has to have absolutely nothing. It's like the meme coin, Meme coins are Fs. I think pretty much.
Honestly, even a meme coin, I'd probably give a D to some of them, just because of the mind share. Like Doge. I mean, it's like that thing is resilient as shit. It has a very strong community. There's something to be said for that. There's some value to that. Am I going to
And it has
invest?
Elon.
He hasn't talked about it, as far as I know, in a very long time. But
Yeah.
it's it would have to have just huge red flags and sirens going off that it's a scam. That it's a rug pull waiting to happen for me to give it an F. Basically an F to me is don't touch this, don't fuck this with your buddy's dick.
Yeah.
It's like that's how bad it is. Like it's highly suspect of some venereal diseases.
Very. and it could jump to you just by osmosis.
Like if you it might be a proximity VD. Like you don't even got to like be up in it. You just got to be around it.
Oh, yep. Practice safe
crypto
trading.
Investing. Yeah.
Investing, centralized exchange, sex.
Put a digital condom on your wallet. Yeah. So, yeah. Closing thoughts. We've reached the twilight hour.
Oh man, take advantage of that free education and intel library with the deep dives. I mean, if you're going to be sitting around watching Netflix all day, and I got it pulled up right here, actually. Netflix ain't going to give you the kind of education you need to advance your investment journey and just get a better understanding of what you're investing in. Because we said many times, you're spending your hard-earned money to invest for your future. And if you don't take the time to actually understand what you're investing in and why you're investing in it, and you get rugged, you got nobody to blame but yourself. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's important. It's really important. And that's why we love to share information with everyone, because we've been through a lot of hard shit in the space, and even myself in the traditional finance space, losing my ass on investment. So learn from us.
No, and that's a good analogy. It's you can learn. You can either learn with your money, or you can learn with your time. You can throw a bunch of money at courses and different things, or you can make mistakes, and that's going to cost you. A lot of people in crypto call it the tuition of send liquidity or money to the wrong address. Whenever you're sending money to an exchange or something like that, or from one wallet, or if you're bridging, things like that. They call it market tuition. You can learn from spending money, or paying somebody to teach you, or you can put in the time, which is what I did. And it's slow going, but I haven't been hit super hard by anything. I've managed to avoid October 10th. I didn't have any major liquidity on any exchanges that have had exploits. I haven't been a part of any rug pulls. Been a part of some slow rug pulls, where the price has gone to dog shit. But that's just part of the game. They're not all going to be winners. It's like going to the bar and you're hitting on different girls. It's like not always going to get a 10. It's like sometimes you're going to get a 4. It is what it is. So yeah, it's important to understand what you're investing in. But if you really want, no risk. There's no risk to to what we offer here. So go to the node.pro, and on the homepage, start free now. Click on it. You can create an account so that it can track your progress through DeFi University and all the different stuff. Because there's tests and quizzes, and it's a whole course, and there's like 12 different modules, and go through it and take the tests, make sure that you learn the material. You're going to come out of it, no matter what. You're going to come out of it more knowledgeable. And all it costs you is time. Other channels would charge you for something like this. They would charge you hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to have access to this quality of education. We give it away. The Intel library, all of the deep dives that we do, all of them are here. Every single one of these. We're doing 13 a week. And are they 100% accurate? No. We fully admit that. So if we do a deep dive on your project, don't get your feelings hurt. Just tell us what it is that we got wrong, cite your source like we do, and we'll change it. As long as you're right and you back it up with facts and data, there's no egos here. We are here to learn as much as you are, and we want to be sure that we're giving out good information. So come at us logically, come at us unemotional, come at us respectfully, and you'll get what it is that you give. You come at us all sideways and shit, squaring up, we're going to pop you on the beat. You want a master class in shit talking, I'll give it to you. I did 22 years in the military, Army and Marines. There ain't nothing that you're going to say that is going to piss me off or get me upset. I'll go for days. Watch our X posts. I'm the one that runs our X account. I'll go for days just poking people, just getting them pissed, getting them friggin' engaging. Because to be honest, it's free engagement. The more back and forth, we get more attention. We get more eyeballs. And I'm not compromising our integrity. All I'm doing is just fucking with somebody, which I take great pleasure in. So if you want to come at me and be respectful and be logical and come at us with facts and cite your sources, you can see on our X account that as well. I will be nothing but respectful. And if we're wrong and you cited your source and I go look into it and we were wrong, I will live on air. I will give you credit for the information that you brought to us. I will admit that we're wrong, and I will update the information so that it reflects accurately. That is the kind of channel we are here. We are a channel of integrity. So again, DeFi University, Intel Library, all free. The AI newsletter, we're going to end up charging $20 for it. It's not dialed in yet. We're offering it for free right now. If you want to, check out the newsletter and the news and the hyperlinks and all that different stuff, feel free. Just make sure that you verify. It's not dialed in yet. The community, our Discord. We're building one into our website because recently we got a 24-hour ban from our own Discord. So we're just going to build it into our website. Screw Discord. So, but until then, you can join our Discord for free. Other places charge for that. We give it away. I think that we decided to do away with the store.
At least for now. Well,
I've never been that bullish on it, to be honest. I do want to buy some hats though before we cancel that account. I love these hats right here.
Yeah, they're slick, man.
But I got to break the bill though. I got to break the bill. I can't do the David, straight.
No.
I can't do the straight bill. Even this one is just like way too straight.
I want to get some hat pins because I collect hat pins at different music festivals and shows. Anytime I go to one, if I find something cool, I like to collect hat pins, and I want to get some made for like Saturday Night Fever and my one hatter music project that I got going on.
Oh yeah. All right. So our shows.
Shows.
So this is our schedule, and again, we do all of this, and we're losing money. So if we weren't being genuine, if we weren't being honest, I guarantee you we would not be like a net negative. doing this show, running the website, building these these products that David's building out, all the the tokens for AI and all the different things that he's using to build this stuff out. The StreamYard that we use to stream. We lose money doing this. Yet every day we are doing multiple live shows to try to help you all out.
Mm-hmm.
So please, all we ask is like, subscribe, and share the channel so that other people can go through DeFi University and learn about these projects and the Intel library and, hopefully avoid a lot of the mistakes that we all made when we first got into these markets. That's all we ask. That is the most powerful way that you can help us grow and get our message out. And it's not to make money. Obviously, me and Jeff have been doing this for over 2 years now. And we have lost money the whole time. We have never made money off of any of this. David is like the first person that we brought on that is actually trying to monetize this. Me and Jeff just used to do this. I'm retired, living in a cabin in the woods. I do this for entertainment. I do this to socialize. Jeff just loves crypto, and I guess likes looking at my ugly face because you've never like missed an episode. You're like always here. You're always engaged. Always an awesome dude. So, fucking cheers to you, brother.
Cheers. And yes, David, get edumacated.
Oh,
for the strategery.
Yes, from the lyrics.
And learning from each other too, because you can see your blind, you can't see your blind spots, but other people can. And if they have different views and perspectives that you might not get, like with the tokenomics and stuff that David's really teaching us about, it's like, oh shit, okay, we really need to reevaluate and rethink how we're investing in this stuff. So, it's powerful. When you get solid people around you that can help you become better. Yeah, Joseph, are we doing a deep dive on Drew? Oh yeah, that could be our bullish show, man. We'll do our bullish.
I'll be honest. I mean, Drew is probably one of the few that I've run across that I know at a somewhat deep level. I don't know Drew, like entirely, but being military trained on how to read people, like David still wants to know how it is that that I found him and
look over there.
He's and what is that, a Wookiee? It's like I did the Wookiee defense.
There's a shekel over there.
Yeah, it's a shekel, go get it. No, but like even when he was up here, when we were out on the island, it's like he kept on trying to figure out, like trying to get me to tell him like how it is that I found him, and how it is that I was able to get him to partner up with us, and I keep avoiding it. The magician never gives away his secrets.
Nope.
and you know what? It's honestly, I don't know. I don't really know TJ that well, and it's weird because we worked with him for like about a year. And we ended up going our separate ways, and it was nothing malicious or anything like that. We were just hoping for more of a partnership, getting access to a lot of their people that that they have in their Rolodex, that as far as connections, to be able to do like high level interviews, and we were hoping to get some help with teaching us how to grow the channel. As far as, because there's a science behind the thumbnails and the text that you use and the colors, and there's a lot of things behind how to grow a channel. And so we were hoping for like some mentorship there. We would do the work. They didn't pay us at any point, but we were hoping for kind of that mentorship, and we just never got it. I kept on pushing and pushing and pushing for it, and just never got it. And I get it. They have a whole, at the time they had this whole huge warehouse that, they had all the overhead of running a brick and mortar business with employees and, all that stuff. So, it's not like they were going to devote a whole lot of time to helping us out. But that was the deal. So, we ended up splitting ways. So I can't speak on that, Joseph, but I have spoke with Drew on many occasions, both on the phone, via text. We've done a bunch of episodes together. I feel like I know him pretty well, and his actions and, the type of father and the type of husband that he is, that speaks volumes for me. The fact that he puts his family first before all else shows me that he's a man of honor and integrity. So
you can tell a lot about a man by the way he treats his kids and his wife, and how he shows up for them. Yep.
So it's as far as my bullish bearish meter on Drew, I'm very bullish. So, but let me share this before we go.
Hopefully it's not in the back door.
Never ever share the back door. Never share the back door.
When I watched Mr. Bean as a kid, there was a scene where he's like, he loses his clothes or something, and he has this this exit sign covering his butt.
Yeah.
I was like, yep, exit only.
He was such a unique comedian. Like, never said anything. It was all like body language. Very interesting comedian. And I love that meme where it has like him in the the Disneyland, like the amusement park ride. And it's like where it's like the crypto investor and the the new investor, and he's just sitting there like enjoying himself, and it's getting thrown around, and the other guy's like freaking out. But all right, before we go, I know we're like 20 minutes over. I apologize. But this is what we have drilled in on here on the node. This is what I'm investing on right now. And again, the projects that we've run across in our deep dives that tick all of these boxes are the ones that are outperforming the overall market. All the other alts and Bitcoin, Hype, Aerodrome right now is doing really well. Canton, it hasn't done any huge pumps, but while the rest of the market dumps and has all this volatility, it's been trending sideways. The past day or two have been kind of shaky. I'm going to call it how I see it. But in 6 days, there's the soft launch of the DTCC, using it. And it's a soft launch. So depending on how much, but it's live on mainnet. So depending on how much volume there is and fees that are generated, we could see the burn rate go up and push towards that equilibrium and it flipping to being deflationary, the token being deflationary. There's a lot of what ifs and maybes on what that's going to do to the token price. I'm not going to pretend that that's going to make token go up, like a lot of these channels that we pointed out during this episode. I'm not going to presume that the token price of anything is going to go up based off any of this. I want to be transparent about that.
We've done that in the past, and we've seen people do that in the past, and it doesn't turn out well. You just can't predict that. So we just keep our mouths shut.
No, I refuse to do that. Always have. Now, that being said, this is the trifecta that we preach here. Is, does the project, the DEX, the protocol, the chain, is it generating fees and revenue currently? Does it make money? Without that, kind of pointless. Next, is there actual adoption? You're not going to have massive amounts of fees or revenue if nobody's adopting the technology. If nobody is putting liquidity on the chain or on the protocol or on the DEX, then it's not being adopted. And if it's not being adopted the way crypto works, transactions and fees and things like that, if nobody adopted Ethereum, there would be no fees being generated. That's true of any project. It's the same thing with traditional finance. If nobody bought the iPhone, do you think that Apple stock would be as expensive as it is? No. People are investing in value. Value is adoption. Adoption is a reflection of the product or service that people are purchasing, generating the fees or revenue. This is basic tenets of traditional finance that we are just bringing over. We didn't invent this. We are just bringing over a valuation model from traditional finance and updating it for crypto. The third tenet that makes this different than the usual model is value capture. So the tokenomics, the fees and revenue are shared with token holders. So as we learned, they cannot pay dividends directly. That makes it a security. So crypto does creative things, like with hype. The fees generated by the protocol are automatically used to buy the token and burn the token, making it deflationary. Canton, same thing. The fees that are generated, 100% of them, are used to buy back and burn automatically the CC token. It's still inflationary, however. It still needs more adoption. But that is what we are focusing on, value capture. Is there a way that the success of the company, of the protocol, of the chain, of the whatever, there is a connection between the token and the profitability? Because if there's not, you are buying a meme coin. You are buying a football jersey. You are buying a baseball card of your favorite team and hoping, just like any collectible, that somebody will come along and pay you more for it than you paid. That's the ugly truth.
Some people don't want to hear it, but you got to hear it. Take your medicine.
So we went over.
Not always
Yeah, we went over. Thank you for sticking with us. I know, on these, whenever I get a little buzz going, I get a little fucking mouthy, a little lippy, and I go off.
We dropping the truth. Dropping the truth bombs.
With an F. Truth.
Truth.
So we appreciate you all. And if you found us entertaining, if you found us informative, if you found us to be jackasses, if you could, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a follow, give us a share, whatever it is. And until next time, Veteran Crypto out.
Peace out.